People of St. Mark's, I'm delighted to be able to greet you this morning and to greet my colleagues and companions of the way, Alan Jones and his good wife, Linda. It is for me a real delight and pleasure to have this moment in your worship service today. One of the themes that have emerged in the 9 decades of my life is the theme that Christianity in the 20th century must do extraordinary work of personal and social transformation. It must move away from being a creedal denomination. The United Methodist Church must move away from being creedal and cultural to being a religion fully impacted by the life and the ministry and the teachings, the death and resurrection of Jesus, who many people call the Christ. The pericope in the Gospel of Matthew this morning is, in my mind, the number one essential teaching of the Scriptures. It appears 3 times in Mark, Matthew, and Luke. It does not show up except in disguised ways and themes in the book of John. But again and again, the Torah and the prophets, Moses and Jesus, insist that the most essential discipline and principle of each one of us is to love God with heart and mind and soul and strength, and the neighbor as oneself. If Christianity had been doing this in the 20th and 19th centuries, we would not need the massive demonstrations that have taken place in the nation in 2020. We would not need to be dealing with the subject of racial justice or gender justice or cultural justice or with the eradication of violence in systems and language and practice. So my simple comment today is that racial justice is a fierce ideological and structural form of USA life and politics, and especially the economy. The simple truth is, if we love God and the neighbor as we love ourselves, which is the very center of religious practice and understanding, we would not be talking about racial justice. We would have a more perfect union and a more perfect society. We would be far along the way in establishing justice for every person of our society. Racial justice and gender justice, and the justice that must come against all forms of violence, and the injustice that is incorporated in plantation capitalism, which is the primary manner of our economy, are all connected. You cannot be for racial justice if you are not for gender justice or for the eradication of violence or the eradication of plantation capitalism. And the first task is always the personal. What doth the Lord require of us? God requires of us a commitment to a life's journey in which our own lives become far more human and alive, and in which all forms of inequality and fear are displaced by compassion and truth. St. Mark's, I invite you to be in a continuing journey for a religion that is full of the truth of, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal, that all are endowed with certain unalienable rights. That form of spirituality and that form of pragmatic living is essential in my mind for our human journey. And that sort of life will help us to see and hear and see and feel the cruelty and torture of too many babies in our society, and will commit us and our congregations to the dismantling work that still has to be done, and then to the creative engendering of ministries that will enable that dismantling to happen and replace racial injustice, gender injustice, with new forms of ministry and new forms of expressing the religion of Jesus.